Hello and welcome to another episode of the Bluespring Out Loud podcast. Today I am excited and privileged to be joined by several leaders from our Bluespring partner firms. We have Atricia Roberts, COO and partner of Curo Private Wealth in the Rockville, Maryland office in the Washington, D.C. area, and then Mark Franczyk, from CEO of Christopher Street Financial in New York City, and also Cristina Briboneria, a partner and co-founder of ClariVise Private Wealth in the Atlanta, Georgia area. Thank you guys for joining us. This is exciting.
Thank you.
Happy to be here.
Awesome. So today we want to talk about niche audience marketing, leaning into a specific group. Now that we know that everyone wants to work with people they understand and people they can resonate with. That's just basic human nature, whether you're going to a car dealership or you're working with a financial advisor. And you all have done a really great job of positioning yourselves and your businesses to work with those specific groups. So I want to give you guys an opportunity first to kind of talk through what is that niche at your firm? What is that group that you've built your business around and use as a growth engine and a building a community inside of that firm? Atricia.
Yeah, so at our practice, Curo Private Wealth, we really lean into working with what we call women in transition. I think a lot of that decision ties back to both mine and my partner, Ann McCabe's own transitions as women, having death of parents, dissolutions of marriages, and figuring out how to provide planning, guidance, and advice that helps give answers, but also becomes empathetic and friendly and makes women feel comfortable as they're making major steps in really pivotal points in their life. And so because we naturally fit that market, it just only made sense that that's who we would be and what we would do.
That's cool. Comfortability. That's a really key term in this entire discussion. Mark.
So Christopher Street Financial was founded in 1981, and we were the first financial advisory firm to serve the LGBTQ plus market. And this was a case where I don't feel necessarily where a lot of firms find their niche over time. We were really born of our niche. It was the fundamental founding. The founder, Bob Castelletto, basically recognized the fact that his community had no place to go for the specialized financial advice that they needed. And he served that need by creating Christopher Street, and we've continued that legacy now for about 44 years.
Wow, that's incredible. And your name, Christopher Street, that resonates with your group as well. What does that mean?
So Christopher Street, yes, obviously it's a reference to a street down in the Village in the kind of gay area of New York City, kind of the foundation of the gay rights movement, and it's code. It was something that was recognized among the community back when Christopher Street was founded. Now it's kind of in homage. We've actually never had an office on Christopher Street, ironically enough, but it is part of our heritage, just as Christopher Street and the Village and Stonewall is kind of part of the LGBTQ plus community's heritage.
That's amazing. Born into the niche and branded to the niche. Yeah. Code word. That's cool. And Cristina.
Yeah, so before we were known as ClariVise Private Wealth, our former name was Oxygen Financial with a big X, big Y, big G, E-N. And we really focused on the generation that was being underserved as the Gen X and Gen Y generations. And what we found when we started to serve that generation or those generations was that they unfortunately didn't have the minimum requirements that large corporations had, and they were not being given the service that they needed or required. And so we really leaned into those generations, primarily because we knew that they were had potential for high income business owners, high future inheritors of wealth, and we wanted to really start working with them early on before any other firm in the country was actually working with them. And so we started Oxygen Financial, or formerly Oxygen Financial, about 17 years ago. And but we recently rebranded to ClariVise Private Wealth to further that mission to continue to work with Gen X, Gen Y, but also further provide clarity and a vision to those clients.
Yeah, that's incredible. And that's a group that has certainly built and gotten a lot bigger since Oxygen was first started and you guys first joined the business.
Absolutely. I mean, when you think about the Gen X, Gen Y generations, 20 years ago, they unfortunately were 30, mid-20s, 30s, and they were starting their businesses. They were, unfortunately at that time, not as high income earners as they are now, but over time, their parents, their grandparents, they've inherited wealth, they've started businesses, they're now six-figure income earners that we've been with for a very long time. And a client who had no money with us now has millions of dollars with us because we've stuck with them and we believed in them before they had wealth.
Yeah.
And it was a very hard grind to stick and build that business. But now, you know, the one of the great things that we've been able to do is have like solid loyalty within those client base. I will say the challenge is we have a lot of folks because of how we built the business. There's a lot of volume in our business.
Interesting. So that a few really interesting points you threw out there. So one, you said it's a grind. It builds over time. And so I want to talk about that a little bit. So how did the business lean into that niche? How did you all decide as advisors, as leaders of your business, that is a certain group that you wanted to resonate with, you wanted to work with, and how did you shape the business around that? Atricia, you can go first.
Oh yeah, sure. So the current version of our practice, Curo, Private Wealth, and Curo means to care for in Latin. It's actually the creation of two very different practices that merged together several years ago. One of the legacy practices was founded in the late 70s, a very what we call old school direct business, brokerage, commission-based business. And I joined that firm over 10 years ago. And so coming through that experience in more of an older regime of the way this business has worked, I often saw our female clients sit passenger seat in their financial relationship. We had a running joke in our office that we had a few basement wives where we never actually saw them. Their signatures would just appear on forms, and I'm like, oh, I guess he let her out of the basement to sign the paperwork. But you realize that just the way statistics work, it's more likely that a woman is going to outlive her male partner. And so what would happen is the male partner would pass away, and she would be completely lost. She had never really met us, never really engaged with us, never understood what was happening with the investments. And so when we had the opportunity to merge with what was Legacy Curo, so my partner Ann McCabe founded her practice in the last 10 or 11 years, focused on comprehensive planning, we realized that was a part of our business that was underserved. So not just the single woman, unpartnered woman, but also the woman who has been in the passenger seat of her financial relationship with her partner. So we decided, being a female-led firm, which unfortunately is still a minority sort of a situation in this industry, that we were going to really lean into that demographic. We wanted to focus on empowering women, educating women, giving them the knowledge. So not all of our clients are single or divorcees, but many of them are just wanting to know more, wanting to have more control, wanting to lead in the meeting, wanting to take the lead. And so we found that's a sweet spot for us, for who we are, how we serve, the planning we want to do, and just being able to speak from our own experiences, right? Having a marriage come undone, or having parents pass away and leave you an inheritance, and trying to figure out what that means for your life. And so it just felt natural. And I think because of that, we naturally I think it found us, right? It's not like we went searching for it. We didn't do market studies. We weren't looking at charts to try to figure out where it was. It naturally found us, and it's just worked. And now women are great referrers. Everybody knows that. So now they're referring their friends. I have, prospects who show up like, yeah, my friend put it in the group chat that we should call them, right? So it's a natural fit for us, and it's been a change in our business in a really positive way, but then also really great to see how it changes just in our clients and how they blossom and open up. And, we don't even want to have a meeting with the husband if the wife isn't coming. Like, no, we'll reschedule for when she's available, right? So it's worked for us, and we love it. We love the work that we do, and we're driving forward. You can't be all things to all people, so we know who we want to be to that group, and that's who we are.
Yeah, that's important. You can't be all things to all people. You can serve everybody, and we know, if someone walks in the door with $10 million, we can find a way to help them out. But it's finding that specific group, leaning into that audience and resonating, that relationship side of the business. Mark.
So again, our situation, I feel, was a little bit unique in the fact that we were born of our niche, which it's been interesting over, 45 years. There's been a huge evolution in
absolutely.
The gay rights recognition and inclusion. One of the most fundamentals was the right to marry. And prior to that, there were what have been kind of niche solutions for our LGBTQ identifying clients because they didn't have the protections of marriage, they didn't have the ability to file and plan in the same way. So after marriage equality, it kind of had the question of, is there still relevance for something like Christopher Street, or has that just dissolved? Like, does the niche no longer have a purpose? The reality is, when it comes to serving a niche market, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have niche solutions. The reality is we're not looking to reinvent the retirement plan, but what we have continued to be able to provide is that place of inclusion where people feel like they can bring their full selves and have that full discussion about what are their values, what are their goals for the future, and to do it with like-minded individuals where they feel that they are going to be heard in the same way.
Yeah.
That has continued to resonate tremendously, and even just kind of in the current political discourse, it's become even more fundamental for a lot of people who are seeking that out. And then when you talk about the whole idea of like you can't serve, can't be all things to all people, that was another thing that we looked at. It was just like, are we being somehow exclusionary? Are we limiting ourselves and the potential in terms of the market we serve? And the reality is, as the world, the culture, society has evolved, so has our client base. And I'd say now that we're probably 60-40 in terms of clients who actually identify themselves as part of the community. And it's been this growth among other individuals who we say is quote unquote share our values, who understand what we can bring to the conversation. So that has been a tremendous kind of expansion of our niche in our niche, as it were.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And each of you, each of your groups that you work with, underserved at the beginning, underserved, overlooked, very niche. And so each of your firms have seen tremendous growth over the years. What was it like leaning into a small, relatively small, overlooked, underserved market and turning that into the growth engine for your firm? What does that look like? How did you make that work?
It's incredibly challenging. So for us, we really tried to lean into the fact that many clients want transparency. So when we built our model, Gen X and Gen Y, they wanted to understand what is it that they were paying for, what are the exact services that they were receiving, where, again, being an independent advisor, I think gives us that ability to be transparent and sit on the same side of the table with our client, versus in some instances, clients felt like they were being slung products or insurance strategies that didn't make sense for them. And so we really leaned into the transparency for our clients. And again, this is where our rebranded name, ClariVise, again, continue to help our clients foster their vision, and then further, again, giving them clarity on how to get there in the most optimal way as possible. But it's really explaining to them what it is they are trying, what it is they are trying to do with their financial lives, and helping them, get to it.
That's interesting, and it's really sounds like it's based on the financial plan. It's not, specific groups like to invest in Walmart or specific stocks. It's, the financial plan. It's understanding where they're at in their life, understanding where they're going, and then how do you shape that plan to that. Now, Atricia, the Women in Transition, like you said, you took an old legacy business, old school financial advisory firm, and then really built it into a Women in Transition focused firm, and you guys have been growing like a weed, really. So how did you turn that into a growth engine, and then what does that look like in the firm today?
Yeah, I won't say it was a difficult decision to make, but I think one of the things we were afraid of was that we were going to make our legacy client feel like they were not a part of the future of where we were headed. So it took a little bit of a nuance, a little bit of a lighter touch in the way we had conversations. So typically a lot of the start of the conversations, especially with our basement wife type households, was just that we want to help prepare your wife for the eventuality that you're going to die before her, right? And so when you say it that way, they're like, okay, yeah, you're probably right. She's going to outlive me. And so when we included them in that process, like, let's bring her in, let's make sure she understands. So it was a little bit of coaching and massaging of the legacy book. But when we really wanted to lean in with where we were going with new clients, we actually cherry-picked women in our current book who fit the demographic of where we wanted to be. And we surveyed them.
Oh,
we
interesting.
wanted to know how they consumed information, what kept them up at night, what were their, top 3 worries, right, about money. And that provided a lot of insight for that age group, for that life cycle. And we decided to become experts in lots of those areas in the planning. I mean, we carry CFP designations, but we wanted to make sure we could really speak the language to the things that concern them. Now I'm single, who's going to take care of me when I'm older? Okay, so now we've got to partner with some retirement communities, right, that we can help direct them. We got to speak the long-term care insurance language. So really leaning into providing, I guess you call them niche solutions, but the things that really apply to the clients we wanted to serve. I mean, we even asked, like, what kind of podcasts do you listen to? Who do you follow on Instagram? We really wanted to know them, because I am of the belief that the only way to serve a very specific segment is to really connect in an authentic way, right? And if it doesn't feel authentic, they'll see it coming a mile away.
Authenticity is so key.
It matters. And so we wanted to make sure we were speaking the language that resonated with that group. And I think that's what's served us. So, you hate to say, like, oh yeah, now you're the divorce advisor, right? But you get divorce attorneys that are like, hey, I need you to talk to this woman before she signs this decree, before we do the quadro. Like, can we have a planning meeting? I'm like, absolutely. She doesn't need to keep the house. I know she wants it. It doesn't serve her financially. So you speak that language and then you become that person. But it feels great to be able to be the quarterback when women are already going through something that's terribly challenging emotionally, or you're grieving the loss of something that was a big part of your life. And so being able to outsource that part to someone else who wants to take it from you, I think makes the difference. And so then they refer us to other people in similar situations.
That's fantastic. And you said something that I think is awesome. And you went through your book, you picked out the clients that fit exactly who you want to work with. Yes. You were very intentional in defining who exactly you want to work with. And that's something that really every firm should do. A lot of firms try and define their ideal clients, and we want to work with anyone, we want to work with retirees with more than $2 million. It's like, all right, great, so does every advisor in the world. But being that intentional and then going and surveying them, what do your clients want? Just ask them. And so that's a great way to get started, leaning into that group and then finding out the best way to resonate. That's awesome. Yeah. That's a fantastic exercise. Mark, how did you guys kind of shape that, service over time and build that? So
one thing we really lean in heavily to who we are. I mean, it's kind of bold, brazen, like we are out there with that message. We are not hiding who we are and who we serve. I mean, even back in 1985, Bob Castelletto actually ran an ad in the New York Times. And it was back when the New York Times had a policy that they would not use the term gay. They wanted to use homosexual, very clinical and the rest. And Bob said, that's not how we refer to ourselves. So he said, he took out a full-page ad, and it was what continues to this day to be one of our taglines, which is gay money, straight advice. And I think that was like a great fundamental of really leaning in, to representing who you are. And by remaining committed to that kind of ethos and that culture has really helped us grow. And I think that for us, it's really more of a case of just letting people know who we are and that we're out there. And we get inbounds through our website from all over just because people have become aware of the name of the brand. Now, one of the things that is challenging is exactly what you spoke to, is that as you're building a business and the rest, you need to be clear on who your ideal client is within that segment, which has put us in this perspective of we want to be able to serve the community and remain true to that, our heritage and our foundation, but do it in a way that makes sense for the business. So we actually frequently find that we have a lot of prospects who will come in interested, and we have the conversation, and we want to make sure that even if they can't serve us, even if it wouldn't be necessarily a model that's in their best interest, we have people that we can refer them to. Maybe they just need a one-off financial plan. Maybe they're somebody who's actually more targeted into the solutions that Cristina provides, where they have a few $100,000 in assets they're going to be accumulating, but it might not fit our model, and we just make sure that we, again, to serve the community, will help find them somebody else in that path.
That's cool. And so one word that I think everyone has said at least once is referability. And so when you have a niche group, you're within a specific community, that group talks. They have group chats. They have COIs they talk to. And so they share those names around and they refer. And that's really still the growth driver for our industry. 70-80% of all new leads come from referrals still today. So how have you leaned into referrals? What does that referral process look like? Cristina, that community of XY generation, they're referring to each other. What are those COIs? How did you really ingrain yourself into that community?
I think the first thing is, to Atricia's point, understanding the psychology of our client base. So what we have often found was that our clients hang out with a lot of people. They're at their kids' soccer games, they like to go out and eat. And so what we tailored our marketing to was doing things that our clients like to do, or that we choose to be there regardless of if anybody else was going to be there. So instead of doing a dinner seminar where we hoped people were going to show up, we chose to say, let's do an event, or let's take our clients to dinner, because even if no one shows up, I'm still going to like to do it. And when we started to lean more into that and do the things our clients wanted to do, or show up at the events that they wanted to show up to, we continue to get referrals week by week. There is not a Monday that I show up to work that I do not have an email in my inbox saying, hey Christina, we heard from you about this from this event or from this person. And it's because we again understand the psychology of what our clients like to do. And I think when you understand that, your clients now become an apostle of your firm, or you as an advisor.
That's interesting, really interesting. And so I guess one question is, you guys obviously represent your niche, you guys live the cause. How do you get your teams on board, right? How do you get everybody rowing the same direction, understanding that niche group, whether they resonate with that group themselves or not? How did you get everyone kind of singing from the same songbook there?
Well, for us, I mean, we kind of hire like-minded people, so it's the same thing. People are coming to work for us because they want to work within the community. But when it came to having clarity on, again, who our ideal client is, that was a process. That was an education to, everybody to understand, these are the demographics, the psychographics, all of the criteria that we are searching for. And we've actually worked through the EOS process. It's something that we took on, which was actually extremely helpful in that defining who our client was. It was, it forced us all to really sit down and be on the same page to say, like, these are the criteria, these are the characteristics that we need. And the next step, kind of when you talk about the referral process, I mean, referrals are, I'd say 99% of where our prospects come from. And we have been leaning in heavily to this idea of, like, it's not just for us to understand who our target client is, but we need these clients who are advocates for us to understand it as well. And again, it kind of helped the solutions where we would have, like, refer the 18-year-old cousin or the rest who really can't fit our models. It's like, we want to help serve in the rest, but, like, let me educate you on, who are the people that we can really best serve. And with that intentionality, it means that the prospects, the referrals that we're getting, are that much more qualified, again, for the services that we are able to provide.
Yeah, that's really a great one too. Not just how do you get your team, understanding your value prop, how do you get your clients to understand your value prop? As with referrals too, right? If someone, is at a dinner party and they say, oh, I love my advisor, they're so nice. Everybody's going to say that.
Nice. Exactly, yeah.
But if you say, no, this person, I walk in there, they're part of my community, they had a great event at the baseball game the other day last week, that's really important.
I think you also have to make it easy to be referred. So oftentimes clients say, hey, Christina, we referred you to someone, gave you your name. My follow-up is, actually, feel free to send them this link. They can schedule online and make it as easy as that, where feel free to just email, introduce us. Thank you so much for being advocate for us. But you have to also make it easy for people to refer you.
Yeah, it is amazing how the inertia, like when somebody gets your email, like to actually follow up, it never happens, right?
Absolutely. But sending, like, we send a link, like, because we do online scheduling now, clients will just send our link and forward the email to that referred person.
You're scheduled, yep.
Absolutely. You have to make it easy.
Yeah, cool.
And we've tailored, we rethought our client and prospecting events now to think of them more as what we call micro events. We don't any longer want to do the big dinner, seminar, bring in the investment partner, because we find that it can be overwhelming for people, especially if they haven't worked with an advisor before. So we started crafting what we call micro events. So we did like a ladies' tea at the Willard in DC. We invited our top 10 ladies and had them bring someone they thought would enjoy it. We, converted 3 clients from that event,
Awesome.
right? So when you do things that are customized in that way, I think it also helps with the referability. Like, hey, I've been wanting to tell her about you. Now she's absolutely going to love to come to the Willard, right?
Yeah.
So again, making it easy, creating spaces where they can come, bring their friends, and everyone feels comfortable. And just in regards to the coaching of the team, to Mark's point, we hire for who we are and who we want to be, right? Like my service advisor is a guy, but a lot of the questions we even ask in the interview process is about empathy. And I've even asked, like, have you worked for a woman before? Have you ever had a female boss? Tell me about that experience, because there's also a nuance to that as well. We know advisors are ego-driven people, right? We always think we're the smartest people in the room. We're like worse than doctors in that way. So you want to make sure that you're building a team of people who can check egos at the door, who realizes that everybody has something to contribute and share, because I think that gets demonstrated to the client. And I think men can work with women just like straight people can work with gay people and older people can work with younger people. It's about showing up authentically, speaking their language, being empathetic, understanding where they're coming from. So we don't think that we're ever going to be an all-woman firm, even though it would be kind of great. So we just make sure that we hire and build a team who understands that and who knows that they have to be able to communicate that to the client, because that's the client we want to replicate, right? So we have to serve them well because we want more of that client. And if they don't buy into that, if they don't like who we are, then they're not right for our team.
Not going to get through the interview. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, we don't even have to follow up after this coffee. So
Cool. Authenticity and intentionality. It seems like everything you do is intentionally focused on how do we serve that client base.
Yeah.
What are our events? Who are we hiring on our team? How are we positioning our financial planning? Everything is focused in on that group. That's really important. You're not going to be able to sleepwalk your way through a niche. You need to focus on it.
Yeah, and I think understanding how you're servicing those clients is important. And to piggyback on, our team knows here is our service model, here is how we're going to respond to clients and what time frame. And once they understand that, they're on board, which again makes it easy for our team to really respond to the clients, if you would, and be on board with the mission and values that we're trying to provide to our clients.
Cool. And so have you run into any challenges in that process over the years? Have you run into any speed bumps building the team and found that maybe there's something in that person or in your service model that's not necessarily reflecting with that group, or something that you've had to change in your business to better lean into that group over the years?
So as we've grown, over time, ClariVise, several years ago, we merged 3 different practices, which is a bear in itself.
we're just a bear.
So we're just going to say that. But over time, we realized that we had to create departments on our team. So instead of one person knowing it all, we really were intentional of this team did planning, this team did paperwork, this team did scheduling, whereas it used to be 1 or 2 people could do all of those things, and that was not feasible. And when we did that in terms of separating and creating departments, we saw exponential growth. 20-30% growth year over year.
Wow.
By again letting our team members do what they were really good at, and trusting that they understood their roles in that department.
That's really cool. Specialization, departments, driving growth, frees up a lot of time on the team.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
cool.
we've had challenges. We've had to let team members go because they didn't fit our model. And because we want to be the outsource, right? I want to work with clients who don't want to micromanage it.
Correct.
Right? They're busy and they have lots of going on and they want to trust someone to handle it. So, even as COO and overseeing an ops team, even my operations team knows a client never gets a blank form from us. Have you ever tried to fill out a new application form? There's so many check boxes and questions. We're never sending a blank form. So we're going to do the data gathering call. You're going to get on the phone. You're going to collect the information. You're going to fill in the information. All the client should have to do is click the e-sign, right? They've already provided all of the information because it just helps take the weight and the load. And I think it helps serves a demographic, maybe even with younger clients, right, who are not used to financial jargon and what the U.S. Patriot Act means and why they're checking that box to say if they're a foreign diplomat or whatever the form says these days. So once you train it, right, once you create that vision, it's got to trickle down through every department of your team. Everybody has to know the why we're doing it, right? We're going to be the white glove service. We're going to take it off of your plate. It means extra work for you, right? Which can be demanding on a team. And so you have to have people who want to show up and do that extra step of work. But I think when everybody gets it, when they understand the why it matters, why we don't send a blank form, and then they buy into that, I think we all kind of work toward the same purpose, and it just helps serves that demographic, and then it helps the growth ultimately.
Cool. Saturating your why throughout everything you do. That's really critical. And so we've done a lot of looking back, talking about where the firm is today. Looking forward, your groups, your niches have evolved, they've expanded over the years. Where are they going, and where are you positioning your firm to meet that group?
I'll take it. So we actually have our client persona. She's got a name. Her name is Kathleen. And Kathleen is 55 years old and divorced. But when you think about the next 20 years, how do we get the next Kathleen? And so we had to create that persona that's younger. Her name is Jessica, right? And it's like, what is Jessica's need today? Jessica may only be 30, but what does she need today? What is that going to look like over the next 30 years? And so it's trying to think about this firm 20, 30 years from now when I'm no longer doing this. I'll probably be teaching anthropology. But what the next iteration of the firm looks like. And it's identifying, even thinking back to myself at 30, right? What were my challenges then? What do I wish someone would have shown me or planned for me at that point? And so what we realized, other things come up that are slightly different from our Kathleen client, right? This client needs to talk about employee compensation plans, stock options. What do RSUs mean, right? People who are working in tech now, who work at Salesforce and Google, who have offices in our area. So now it's like, okay, we got to speak that language too, right? It may not matter to Kathleen, but it matters to Jessica. And so learning what the future version, I think, of your client is going to be also helps, because then you can help train that way. You can create the tools, bring on the team, like hire even for that capacity, right? Like if I'm interviewing for an advisor and they speak equity comp plans, then that's a green flag for me. Like, this is what we need, right? And help you creating a firm that's growing toward who you want to eventually become. So I think you got to think about it in every step of the process, not just who we're serving now, but who that person is in 30 years, right? And what they look like now and how we can reach them. So we've actually, and I think Cristina brought it up about not meeting certain minimums for firms when you're younger. So we even changed our pricing model, right? So that Jessica can work with us on a planning only, because they're high earners, right? Yes. They make great salaries. They just, all of their money is in the 401k or in the TSP. So having them be able to just pay a fee to engage us just for the planning part, even if they don't have the assets yet, that's us thinking about the next 20 years, right? How do we get Jessica on board so that she's perfect when she's Kathleen, right? So we've been thinking about it, I think, even past ourselves.
So that's why we built the model the way we did, because we wanted to engage people who needed planning. They needed a way to initiate and engage with the financial services industry. So in this case, clients paid us a fee. Maybe they didn't have the assets to work with us immediately. 10 years later, now they've come back and said, you did a great plan for me 10 years ago. We now have the assets to come back. Can we still work with you? Absolutely. Do you have more?
Send us your statement.
Send us your statement. That's exactly. Great to hear from you. Send us your statements. You've changed jobs 3 times? Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. And it's looking where you want to go. Planning for the future. That seems really key. So as we're getting towards the end of our discussion here, I want to ask each of you, what is one actionable tip you would give a random advisor in the industry that doesn't have a defined niche? Someone who just works with that $2 million retiree, someone who is looking to get more specific and intentional about who they want to work with. What is one thing they can take back and within the next week they can get started on to maybe work down that path?
I think absolutely it has to be whatever niche that you end up settling on, it has to be with authenticity. You have to be able to back it. You have to be able to walk the walk, talk the talk, because otherwise it will be artificial. And perhaps that's maybe because of the niches that we represent and serve here. Yeah. I think maybe it's a little bit different if you find yourself demographically serving doctors, but you have to know why you're doing it, and then you need to commit to it. So you can't do a niche focus in an unfocused way, because all it's going to do is just cause more dispersion of your thoughts and attention and probably muddle things more for you. So really define it, really commit, and stay the course.
Nice.
I think from a marketing standpoint, it really changes when you do the things that you want to do, regardless of if someone's going to show up. And that creates authenticity in what you're trying to accomplish in terms of getting referrals and building new clients and even bringing clients to that event or action.
Conviction about what you're doing.
And I mean, I think for at least the three people here, we're niche advisors, right? We don't look like or come from the groups that you're normal. We're younger than most of the average age of your advisors. We're from different marginalized communities. So I think finding a niche was probably more natural for us because of that. So if it's a situation where you don't find your natural community in any specific niche, I think you just got to go deeper in the planning. And I think that's always where the niche comes out of. You got to be okay with being an expert at something. So you can say, yeah, I like to work with doctors, but what about doctors? Are you doing their retirement plans, right? Like, how are you helping doctors? And there's so many facets of planning where you can just go deeper and become that subject matter expert. And then to Mark's point, you just got to lean into that and be okay with just being that thing. But it will serve you in a referability way, because every doctor who needs help with their retirement plan will know you're the guy to call to get help with that plan. And I think committing to it in an authentic way, becoming the expert to the group you're serving is going to be the key difference in really finding growth in a niche.
You've all said some incredible things here today, and that's really been fantastic. And to summarize it, I think it comes down to authenticity, intentionality, a bit of self-reflection, and becoming an expert on something. Diving deep, not going wide, and really focusing in on that group. It's going to build referrals for you. It's going to set the brand for business. Make sure your team is focused and rowing the right way, and you can really lean into that niche group. That's fantastic. I want to thank you all for joining me today on the Bluespring Out Loud podcast, and thank you all for watching this episode of the Bluespring Out Loud podcast. You can find more episodes of Bluespring Out Loud everywhere you get your podcast. We'll see you next time.